Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is Series 7 Guru, a.k.a. Dean Tenney, coming to you from an undisclosed off-grid location, and our always very special VIP guest, the test geek himself, Brian Lee. We love to help you with any content, and we'll do that after we get some housekeeping done. So tell us what series exam you're taking and where you're joining us from. And we're here every Tuesday. If you miss it live, you can catch it as a podcast episode on both YouTube and Spotify. All right, let me get going with some housekeeping. If you do have a question for us, it's helpful for Brian and I to pick it out of the chat. If you tell us what exam you're taking, SIE Series 7, 24, followed by your question, because as you know, as a test taker, there's lots of overlap, but the way they test different topics and different exams could be different. That kind of helps us decide at what depth we may need to answer your question. Maybe we can go shallow, maybe we need to go deep. And so that's pretty helpful for us if you think about it. The best free supplement to your paid study materials is my channel. The channel is organized by your series exam. You find, for example, the SIE. And if you're taking the SIE, I have three playlists for you. I have a playlist where we talk about a podcast, gives you a nice end-to-end overview of it. Then there's lectures, and then there's practice tests. If you are looking for a particular topic within that, just go to the channel search bar, put in accrued interest or margin or zero coupon or trade flat, whatever the term is, and our content will come up. Our Facebook community just passed 500 members. It's called Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. Feel free to join us over there. A hat trick is 3 successes in a limited time frame. Baby Broker is a rookie in the securities industry. We also have our Reddit communities. We have a subreddit for Series 6. Our R Series 7 is for SIE and Series 7. Our R66 communities for all the NASA exams. And our Series 24 is for 9, 10s, and 24s. If you're looking for a paid supplement, the best paid supplements out there are Kaplan QBank. If you don't already have one, the Guru 15% discount code at checkout is Guru 15. And I think you combine that with Brian. Brian's been kind enough to give our viewers a 20% discount on his content. And he's a master at distilling this information down to what's necessary. I keep, Brian, having people that are so happy with your content, they keep asking, does it substitute for paid study materials? And Brian and I make it very clear, my free supplement, his paid supplement, is just that. It is a supplement. But if you have the resources, we highly recommend you consider getting that. All right, let's see what we got going on in the chat. Boom, boom, boom. Hi, Dean. Taking Series 6 for the third time Friday. Okay, well, that's going to be important to get that third one done. We don't want to not get that one. 77, 74, 76. Oh, I'm going to round up 85 and 85. I haven't taken the master yet, taking Thursday. Any advice? You think I'm ready to pass? I certainly do. Those scores are good. I don't know, Shelby, if you have a Test Geek practice test. If not, you can get one from Brian for about $20-something. It's a PDF. I don't know how people don't understand it's a PDF. If you just want the PDF, it's about $20. Do that. Or you can do it on the channel, hit pause and repeat. And what I like about Brian's test, Shelby, is it gives you really strong correlation to the actual exam. So maybe throw a Test Geek practice test in there just to confirm those scores. But those scores by themselves, I think, look pretty damn good. Brian, your thoughts? I think that's pretty good score.
Well, I think you know where I'm going to go. When we see those scores of 70 and 71 on the previous exams, that's not always a deficit in content. It can be test taking as well. Please don't change any answers at the end.
Please be confident. Be confident. I'll give a shot at this, Shelby. The difference between unethical and prohibited. Prohibited, I think, is spelled out to you, Shelby. Like, you can't sell dividends. You can't do a breakpoint sale. How about this? I can't find a rule against this, Shelby, but how about I call 1,000 people? I tell 500 to buy and 500 to sell the same security. And then I have 500 people I've been right with. And then I call another 250 of the 500, tell 250 to buy, 250 to sell. Now I have 250 people I've been right twice with. Now I call 125, 125 to buy and sell the same security. So on and so forth. Now I have a core group of 30, 40 people. I've been right 10 times. They think I'm a genius. Is there a rule that says Dean can't do that? I don't think, though. Is that called the Ponzi or the Dean? Is there something where we've made a rule of that? No, but it's unethical, right? It's unethical. So I think unethical is something that's not right morally, but not necessarily spelled out as being prohibited. And that would be my guess on that. Brian, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's great.
Do you think it's a testable issue? I really don't. I mean, so Shelby, we're concerned if this is your third time, because I'm just going to be honest now, speaking tough love. If that's the kind of thing you're worried about, I think you're a little bit in the weeds. It's either bad or it's not. I don't think we're going to make you distinguish. Now, if you're using past perfect, perhaps they might, jerk your chain a little bit with that. I did question day, Kaplan question, and it was a gotcha question. But I don't think that's a big deal. I don't know if this is showing up as a link. Wednesday night, I'm doing a debt securities class. Every Wednesday, I'll be doing evening classes at 5:30. It's $35. And what I'm doing is some of my older lectures are getting a little long in the tooth. And so if you want to join us tomorrow night, just go to deantinneytutoring.com and you can join us. That also allows you to access my office hours, which are every other Wednesday. And those are free for paid students. And that's a $225 value if you just show up. But usually it's 5. I cap it at 5. This week we got 6. We also have a free live stream that's taking place every other Tuesday. Tonight some of us will be reconvening in a virtual classroom afterwards. What is an unlinked ECN? Well, ECN means electronic communication network. And my understanding of linked, I would like some more background on the particular question, Amanda, that you're looking at. But some ECNs are linked, and what that means is all the reporting mechanisms are in place where there's not additional work necessary for you to do that. If it's unlinked, I think of that as being dark, meaning you're going to have do some manual thing to actually report those trades, or maybe it means they're anonymous. But I would like more information context-wise to see how you're experiencing that as a test term. Let's see.
Is there a separate reporting for these unlinked ECNs?
They would go to either OTC or trade reporting facility. The answer just depends on the system itself. Okay. So I guess I would say in general, Amanda, this is just my thoughts, and I'll defer to Brian. I think a lot of test prep vendors on 24 spend too much time on the back end plumbing, the support unit, rather than what our responsibilities are on the front end. What I mean by that is best execution, not walking and crossing markets, that kind of thing. So I'm not sure if that's the issue you're experiencing. And then just again, my experience has been, Amanda, that the people who struggle most on 24 are packaged product folks, people who come from a mutual fund background and aren't as familiar with trading and investment banking. So I would make sure you power up on corporate finance, banking, and trading. Melissa, woo! Victorious test taker in the house.
Yes.
Right on. Brandon Marsden, thank you. Helping me pass the hat trick. There we go. That's the SIE Series 766. A hat trick Wednesday. And for Brian's call that morning, Brian steps up. He asked. I forget, Melissa, how it went down, but I think you were asking for that call in the live stream. Brian agreed he would take it. And that's so I guess good news for you, he was on call. The doctor is on call this evening. Now, Brian told me next week he's going to be in Canada, and so I doubt he'll be on call. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah, right. Victoria's test taker in the house. I don't know why you wouldn't want to listen to Brian and I about testable content. But, when you have Victoria's test takers in the house, you don't have to take it from me or Brian. You could ask Melissa. You could ask Rania. I would tell you that draws can be different. So just be careful, when somebody tells you what they got on their exam, because who knows what you're going to get. Could be, similar. There's things that show up consistently. I kind of think it is probability. There's things that are high probability, things that are low probability. Yeah. 65 tomorrow. Luis, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Get some sleep. I don't know what you're doing with us. It's an honor and a privilege to have you with us, but make sure you get some sleep. Final score was 90. Oh my goodness. I feels like I knew the answers already. There you go. Did you study too much? There's no such thing. There's no such thing. I don't know. Study too much. I'll take that back. If you study too much and you're burnt out, then the answer is yes. Do I think you're burnt out with a 90 and you're testing tomorrow? I do not. So I think you should feel good. What should you add to your dump sheet? At this point, there'd be nothing that Brian and I could say that would be worthwhile to you. It looks like you're good to go. So you just got to stick the landing. You know what I tell people, Brian, is I call it the 747 principle. It takes a 747, 120% of rate of power to get off the ground. Nose back, seat up. It takes about 70% to hover once they're up there, right? So, Luis, all you need to do now is stick the landing. You are in flight. And so I'm glad you're testing tomorrow, by the way. If you told me you had a 90 and you're testing 2 weeks from now, then I would be concerned. If you go, you might have a problem. I joke with my analogy, right? You're circling the airport. We don't want you running out of fuel, while we're up there, Hey, landing field 2 is open. Come on down. Hi, Dean and Brian. Noel, I passed my 7 this past Friday. Woo! Moving on to 66. I love it. Noel, I'll put in the video description. Brian and I did a collaboration on the 66, an entire podcast series. I have made it playlist 1 because people have found it so helpful. So on that 66, I have the first playlist as a podcast Brian and I did together. The second is lectures, and the third are practice tests and practice questions. I'll link in the video description. I would recommend by starting your 66 by watching that podcast start to finish. I think we came in Brian? 5 episodes, 4 hours.
Something like that. Yep.
Yeah. So
45 minutes a piece, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't say don't read the book, Brian. I always think you should read the book, but the one reason I always want people to read the book, and people are incredulous sometimes when I say this, is you need to know what all that content is cover to cover. And what I like about the podcast that we did is it kind of is the same kind of a thing. It lets you see what the entire thing looks like. Right. And sometimes that can be helpful when you're now digging in to do it, right? So I have changed my entire organization of my YouTube channel, where every series now starts with a podcast series. We did the 65 together. We did the 66 together. I did the SIE 7, and I'm going to try and talk Brian into doing a 6 podcast series. That's we don't show as much love to the 6s as I think they deserve, and I'm trying to fix that. It's just a matter of time and resources. Failed the 66 with a 70% yesterday. Do you think rereading function 3 or 4? Watching videos in Kaplan's? Yeah, I do. Daniel, I know that we're talking about you won the coaching call, I think. I thought we'd already done one, but that's okay. You're a loyal, listener and viewer. I'm more than happy to set something up with you. But yeah, watch my You Failed, Is It Over? I'll link it to the video description. I think you probably already have watched it. But I would like you to do a debrief with yourself. The way I suggest you do that is go get the 66 test specifications or the 66 study guide published by NASA. You go to their site, that's available. And what I want you to do is just go through that while the herd is fresh and put a plus, 0, or minus. Plus means you think you're good on it. 0 means you think you're at par passing. Minus means you're below par, you need to work on it. And you got to overlearn everything. What I mean by that, we start by getting the negatives, the minus signs, and your intellectual inventory to par or above. But make sure you learn everything, because Brian, I don't know about you. I notice a lot of people when they fail that second time, sometimes what's happened is they've overlearned, which they should, the parts they were struggling on, but then the other ones fell out of their mastery. So you got to keep everything above par. So that would be my recommendation, Daniel. I don't know if you're joining us for the office hour tomorrow or the live stream tonight, but we can talk there as well. Brian, your thoughts on retest?
Yeah, he sent me a picture of his scores, and he's absolutely right. The function 3, I'm starting to find, Dean, that's starting to become a bit more of an issue for folks. Function 3 of both the 65 and 66, I call the potpourri of those exams. They cover so many different topics, right? It's labeled client recommendations and investment strategies, and it's got just about everything in it. The different types of clients, but it also has, the investment theory, the CAPM, the efficient market hypothesis. It also has portfolio management, right? Strategic versus tactical, all those things we expect to see. But also the types of accounts, the different joint accounts, the TODs, the 529s versus Coverdales, the UGMAs, the UTMAs. It's got so much in it. And of course, some of the performance measures. And I'm starting to find where this is becoming more of an issue for folks, where those scores are a little lower than we'd like them to be. It wasn't so much a year or 5 years ago, but now it seems like it's becoming an issue.
Yeah, I would tell you too, Brian.
Yeah.
I think both the 65 and 66, Daniel, I think one of the challenges is it doesn't have a narrative thread to it.
Right.
It's all over the place.
That's right.
I think the Series 7, for example, has a narrative thread to it. So when you take your 7, function 1 is find a customer. Function 2 is open a new account. Function 3 is make the investment. Function 4 is what happens afterwards. And, so it's a lot of stuff on the Series 7, but there is a narrative thread to it. But boy, the NASA is here, and then it's over there, and it's over here again. There's not really something that kind of strings it together, and particularly in those areas. So I totally agree with you, Brian. It's just hard to find yourself that throughway in
Right.
particularly those subject areas. So, all right. Thanks, fellas, for all you do. Finish the 9-10 today. Wow. Sales supervisor in the house.
Wow.
That 10 is a slog. I think, Banana, I'd be interested in the chat if you have a moment. I think you asked Brian and I about, or somebody did, about how much we think you're going to encounter complex option strategies on the 9. I feel we told you that it's more about sales supervision. By the way, I'm not seeking confirmation. If it's non-confirmation, I'd like to hear that too. But I'd like to know what you thought about the complexity of the strategy questions. Our debrief has said that, that people can actually spend too much time on that, not actually sales supervision. So kudos. The 10 is a real slog, and so you have really accomplished things. So you're now, so for those of you who don't know, a 9-10 is a sales supervisor / branch office manager. So real accomplishment. For those of you who don't know, we ring the bell for testing victories, or for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee, right? So that's why I'm celebrating those testing victories. And boy, I think a 10 gets a double ring on a 10. Hey guys, taking my 66 on Thursday. I'll be taking Brian's test tomorrow to get a final mark. Love it. Cody, I like that. That's that good mark. That's a true mark that we can count on as being reliable, good or bad. Brian, so sometimes in social media, people will be upset with Brian because they'll get a score they don't like. And instead of looking inward and saying, I need to, remediate, they'll be throwing rocks at Brian. So I shouldn't say throwing rocks, Brian. That's too strong. Whining a little bit about, this
I don't hear any of this. I'm not on social media much.
Yeah, Brian doesn't care. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it really fall. Brian is not on social media, so he's going to be enjoying himself one way or another. But you're doing the right thing, Cody. All that to say, you're doing the right thing. Hi, my coworker failed the 65 twice. Apparently has a third chance. I find most firms, Jeff, will give you all your at-bats as long as they know you're executing a study plan and you're working, you're dedicated, you're disciplined, and organized as you can be, given whatever circumstances you find yourself in. What I mean by that is we understand if you're part-time study or it's different than if you're full-time with pay. We get it. But that's pretty typical. So I thought it was 2 attempts at a 30-day wait. No, it's 3. So, Jeff, that third attempt is really an important at-bat, right? Because if you don't get that third attempt, you're going to wait 6 months.
So it's 6 months after the third attempt. Yes.
Yeah. 6 months after the third. 30, and then 6.
Yeah.
Hey, well, just here to say thank you. Well, Well, you're welcome. I'm assuming that's thank you for testing victory. Brian and I are always very gratified when we can contribute to testing victories. 65, did you pass? Good evening, gentlemen. 65. Thank you both for all your helpful tips. Lady Brill, I'm not sure. Have you tested yet? Is that do we need to ring the bell for you? I hope. Let us know if that's just you're feeling good and we're helping and you're still on your journey, or have you arrived at the summit and you now have completed your journey? I'm taking my 66 weeks. 50% ain't going to get it done, Michael. So, yeah, good news. You're 3 weeks out, right? You're 3 weeks out. So, I'm not sure if there's a question here. If you just want, a lot of these live streams are also about camaraderie and fellowship and knowing you're not alone. And so, Michael, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're willing to share where you're at presently. 3 weeks out, I would like maybe in this next week, you've got to really put your pedal to the metal, because what we need from you is a practice test score. So we know whether that's a 50 that's playing out across the board. I think for you, Michael, the goal should be to consistently on a practice test be in the 70 range. So you've got some work to do. I would call this, Michael, and I'll defer to Brian in a minute. I would call this knowledge deficit still, and that's okay. That's part of the process. You don't have enough base knowledge yet. If you're getting 50%, my experience has been that means you don't have enough base knowledge yet to know what you're being asked and what the answers being offered to you are. Brian, your thoughts on that with Michael?
Well, the first thing I'm thinking of is he needs my definition of persons and registration.
There you go. So, Michael, I will link to that. Brian, I roped him into doing an evening class for us called Definitions and Registrations of Persons, and I will put that in the video replay. So what we do in these live streams, if you're just joining us, you're new, is when people have something that, we have videos for, in the replay, we put them there where you see the video description. Michael, I will put that there. People have found that very, very helpful. So good idea, Brian. Good idea.
I think of the laws and regs on the 66, with the 45 questions. In my own mind, I break it into 3 areas. The definition of persons being one of them, the disclosures being the second one, and then the ethics, the unethics. Kaplan's got a great section in the textbook that just completely separates, right? The statement of policy of unethical behavior of advisors and advisor reps, which is great for those prohibited ethical portions.
There you go. Evening, Dean and Brian. Carla Robertson from Columbus, Ohio. Buckeyes Day. Taking the Series 6. Well, welcome, Carla. Welcome. Hi, Dean and Brian. Dean, the display in the background shows stock prices is really cool. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. So what's that? So NVIDIA there. What's coming up next? We got NVIDIA. There's Microsoft. And they're pretty impressive too, Brian, because I'm off grid. So I still have modern technology. There's Apple. Let's see what's in my portfolio there, right? I think I got McDonald's there. There's Google. I got to have Google. I'm all in on Google.
I have Google stock too.
Yeah, there we go. And then let's see what's next. There, Apple. So now it's repeating. All right. I'm glad you like it. Boom. Oh, the Ethereum. I got some Bitcoin there. There's Facebook. I'm getting pretty good at seeing it in the back. I'm thinking about getting a smaller one, Brian, that goes in front of me so I can actually. And then I'm thinking, well, that might be a bad idea because I'd be distracted with, stock prices when I'm supposed to be helping people. 65 Las Vegas. Pass, Trevor. All right. Yeah. So, Trevor, I'm one of those. I love it. The Kaplan Q Bank, exhausting that Q Bank. I'm one of those people who think you should do lots of questions. So, Trevor, I always put it this way. I am not a corporate trainer, but if I was, when you miss your mark, the first thing I'm going to do is use my administrative access. I call it the Big Brother key, where I can go backstage and see what you have been doing. It's hard for me as a corporate trainer to monitor how much videos you've watched, how many pages you've read. Those are all very important activities. What's easy for me to see is how many practice questions you did, how much practice drilling and rehearsing you've done. almost always there's a direct correlation when I was in that function between people who miss their mark and their Q bank usage rate. There's a very strong correlation to failing the exam, low Q bank usage rate. You know, I think it's correlated. Maybe it's not. And people who have high Q bank usage rate and pass. So we were talking about those folks who are getting 3 opportunities too, Trevor. And I'm so pleased that you passed, you know, using the gap and Q, exhausting the question. But the other thing is that, you know, when people are not doing the questions, they don't get enough practice drilling or rehearsing, and then they're fumbling around. So the other thing you want to do lots is to get consistent when you see in a question how to attack that question. So I'm glad to hear that. It warms my heart, Trevor, that you use the Q bank, you try to exhaust it. Now I know not everybody has the time to do that. So again, people get incredulous. Dean, there's 3,000 questions. I go, okay, so we had Michael previous, right? He's getting a 50%. He told us that's 3 weeks. So I simply would take the Q bank, divide it by however many days I get, and I would set a daily discipline. Doesn't have to be all, but a daily discipline would be doing a certain number of questions. So, Brian, what do you think? I know you're not as aggressive as I am about Q bank usage.
Not in exhausting 3,000 questions, but I believe exactly. I know people who try to attempt these exams without taking any of the practice questions. And I just can't even fathom that. I don't know where that line is, Dean. And I tell everybody that.
Or here's my favorite. Not read the book or do any questions. They don't want to read the book or do questions. I go, I don't know how you're going to do it.
There's a lot of those Q bank questions that just get way too in the weeds for me. So, you know, where that good line is between how many you do, and I don't know where that is, you know. But yeah, you got to do numerous questions. Yeah. Absolutely.
Hello, Dean and Brian. Is a strangle the same as a combination? Ascati, I again think you're in the weeds. The kind of questions you ask are always outside of the Series 7. Hey, over here, my friend. You are not going to identify a strangle. We probably still have our Series 9 and 10. I would bet in her 9 she didn't have to identify a strangle. And I would imagine in a Series 4 you don't have to identify a strangle. A combination is just a straddle with different strike prices. Now, again, identification is important, but on the Series 7, it's identification simply of whether you're looking at a speculative strategy where you don't have the stock. May end up with a stock, but you don't have it. Long call, short call, long put, short put, or an advanced option strategy, speculative, spread, straddle, and straddle with different strike prices or combinations. Or are you looking at stock plus options? You're not going to have to do a strangle on the Series 7. So I worry. I've noticed that, and again, I apologize if this is not the same user, but I think you had some kind of in the weeds accounting questions as well that aren't found on the Series 7. So I just want to say once again, it is very important for all test takers to stay on the broad avenues and highways of this information. You don't want to go down any mental cul-de-sacs or alleys. And I think that's a mental cul-de-sac. Your thoughts, Brian? Strangle?
Ditto. That's all.
By the way, you're welcome to send me a private email, Dean at guruexamprep.com. I'm more than happy to discuss that with you outside the scope. The other problem is I don't want people listening to things that are going to cloud their mind on things they're not going to see on the test. Hi, guys. Been studying for my second go around for the Series 7. First attempt was 53. Oh. And my updated scores have been around the same. I'm not retaining info. Well, Anthony, we have said this. I'll say it again. That's a knowledge deficit problem. That means you do not have enough base knowledge. If you're getting 53%, that means you don't have enough base, and that means you need to lay base. You shouldn't be doing practice questions if you're getting 50s. You need to stop, do remediation. That means reading, watch videos, come back, and see if now you're not doing a little better. You know, I always say inch by inch, it's a cinch, yard by yard, it's hard. But any score below 60 means remediation. It means knowledge deficit. You got to have some more base. It's the same thing I said earlier. That to me means you are not clear what you're being asked, and you're not clear what answers are being offered to you. Now, by the way, I agree that's tough. I just did a tutoring session today, Brian, and I think she was legitimately had issues with understanding how that question is asking or something. Oh, this is new, Brian. Have you ever heard of this? This is this week. This just blows my mind. FINRA and NASAA are very accommodating, and he is dyslexic, and so FINRA provided him with a reader, so she gets to read. She actually reads him the question. Now, what the challenge was, Brian? Can you imagine this? She doesn't know anything about Series 7, and I said, "Well, is she allowed to add a word or paraphrase it for you?" And he said, "Absolutely not." And he said that she was shocked in all her reading assignments that, she was like, "Oh my God, this thing is really tough." And she didn't know where to put the annotations. I thought, wow, I never heard of that before.
I'm not either. Nope, not at all.
Outside of a personal tutor, well, I think I just gave it to you, Anthony. You need base. So if you're not going to use a personal tutor, and I don't think you should be using tuners to lay base. I mean, Brian and I are more, well, maybe Brian less than me. I'm happy to take your money to lay base information. I've literally had private equity guys, hedge fund guys pay me my $225 an hour. They say, "Dean, I'm not going to read the book. I'm not going to do any questions. I'm going to pay you however many hours to walk me through this thing cover to cover." That's going to be thousands of dollars. And I know not everybody has those resources. And so I think you're on the right track, Anthony. You should use tutoring to plug any gaps you have. Doesn't mean we won't help you, but I would prefer you're using tutors to plug gaps after you've laid base. I think using a tutor to lay base is not a good use of resources, so that's, I think, a good point. So how are you going to do that? That means reading, as we've said. You got to lay base by reading, watching videos, then do questions. If you're still getting 50, go back, more reading, more videos, get different sources. Brian has some free videos on his YouTube. You have my free resources, paid resources. Maybe that means you got to pay Brian his $100, we'll give or take. And he has some great videos that, again, are only about the test. I have 1,000 something videos, right? So, you're not going to watch 1,000. Brian has that. Maybe a paid supplement. I think a paid supplement would be a good way to go. What do you think, Brian? Paid supplement in lieu of a tutor, like, your program, something like that?
Yeah, I don't want to see him spending money on a tutor at this point in time. You're absolutely right. We're there to identify and to help remediate where the weak areas are, right? We're that bridge, and he's not on the bridge yet.
Yeah, there you go.
53. I'm not trying to be harsh.
Yeah, we're not trying to be mean-spirited at all, no.
Exactly. And that means before you approach the bridge, you got to lay more base. And, and that's textbooks, it's videos, it's absolutely, yep. Right. Flashcards, write notes. I mean, I'm a note guy. I'm not a flashcard guy. Yeah. I write notes and I create outlines.
To each their own. I think what we agree with is that below 60 is a knowledge deficit thing. You need to lay base.
That's right.
And once you get past 60, then you can at least know what you're being asked and know what the answer is being offered. Again, tough love, Anthony. This was a tutoring session. And it was just 15 minutes in, it was readily determinable that he's not ready for tutoring. Right. And I said, listen, I don't want to take your money because, this is not where we should be. I'd like to reschedule you 2-3 weeks out. And let's see when we come back if you've now got some more base. Because right now you don't know what you're being asked. You don't know what the answer is being offered to you. So you can't RTFQ, read the full question. You can't RTFA, read the full answer set. And so I thought he took it in spirit, Brian, because when he showed up for the next tutoring session, he said, Dean, I'm halfway there. I go, what's that mean? He goes, I now know what I'm being asked. I'm still not quite sure what the answers are, but at least I know the questions. I go, well, we may laugh about that, but that's progress. That's where we need to be. So
yeah, I usually require someone to be scoring in at least the mid 60s or above. Because again, I don't want to take people's money, right? If they haven't laid base. And there's plenty of resources out there to help you lay that base. And
Brian is money. I joke in the beauty contest, Brian is not a contestant. He's a judge. So he wants to make sure that you are worthy of the tutoring. I'm teasing. But he wants to make sure you're in a good position to take advantage of the resources you're expending for that. So,
you and I, Dean, are fortunate. We don't have to do this to make,
That's right.
We make a very good living. We are
blessed.
very comfortable. So we don't want to take people's money
Absolutely.
if we can't help. Yeah.
Greetings, Ivy. Greetings. You sent I'm Michaela. I don't think I saw it this afternoon. I got that question on my exam a few weeks ago. I still don't know the answer. Are you joining us in the live stream overtime? If not, because I can bring it up my email between this and that and take a look at it. If not, I'll search my email again and I'll respond to you individually. But no, I did not see your question in my email this afternoon. I just apologize. Feel free to nudge me. I can't keep up. So it's the first time in my life ever, because I used to be one of those people, you should return my email within 2 hours. It's just logistically impossible for me to keep up. So I apologize. Feel free to nudge me. I will look for that. And I will answer you either if you're joining us in the overtime, I'll answer you then. Or if you want to put it into the chat, if it's not too involved, put it in the chat and we'll take care of it there. That's another way to proceed. So either way, we'll find an answer for you. If we need to do some homework and get back to you, we will do so. Brian, does Test Geek have a PDF series? No, he does not. He does not. But he has a supplement. I don't know, Amanda, if you already got a supplement. And I would tell you, Amanda, I will link to it. Brian knows where I'm going with this. Very rarely do people really look like they've had a religious conversion over some video. And Brian has for free a Series 24 video on buy-ins and sellouts that when people watch, they just go, oh my God, what a revelation. So Amanda, I will link that in the video description for you. Make sure Brian has some free resources on the YouTube, and he does have a paid supplement for the 24.
I have what I call a Series 24 study final.
Yeah.
It's not really structured as a practice final that you take and evaluate and get a score on. It's a little different than that.
Yeah. So people bought it, though. I get a lot of reports, Brian. People like it, are very pleased with it as a paid supplement.
Good.
Marcel, mom is doing great. She's in the cabin now. I'm out here in the studio. And, Brian just told me before we started that his casino host had called him and told him that he's comping dinner. And I don't know if that includes you and I, Marcel. I'm hoping. And we can help Brian take care of those comps, Just saying. We're here for you, Brian. We're here.
Yeah, I'm sure you
are. Dean and Brian, I'm testing about 2 weeks. And you are spot on. Investment vehicles are my challenge. I'm barely passing that area, 73 exactly. How do I improve that score? I have the practice test from Brian. Well, Carla, if you have not yet done Brian's practice test, please do not. I tell people when they buy Brian's content as a paid supplement to put that practice exam away. It's kind of like the SIE FINRA practice exam on the website. Those are some great resources, great arrows in your quiver. And I don't want you to shoot those arrows off too quickly. So I like to have that practice test of Brian's available a couple days out so we can get that final mark. So that would be my recommendation if you have that practice test from Brian, to save it 2-3 days out, depending on your confidence level. That's when we take that last mark with Brian's practice test. It's the same answer: practice, drilling, and rehearsing, remediation. It's slow work, drip, 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 one bite at a time, right? So, Brian, your thoughts?
Do we know if she's doing the 65 or 66?
I think so. Let me go back up in the chat. I think she told us it was 65. Hold on. Let me see if I can find. Carla, if you put that back in the chat, that would be helpful. Let's see. I think she told
Carla,
us.
To me, that question is my.
Sounds like 65 to me. What do you think, Brian?
I don't know.
Let's see. I don't see it anywhere.
It's the holy grail for me, this question. Yeah. Why are people struggling so much, especially the 66, for folks who just took an entire test on investment vehicles? So my guess is a lot of it has to do with stuff that's not on the 7, like investment analysis. That includes fundamental versus technical analysis. That includes discounted cash flow. On the 66, we know there are 3-ish questions. Also, the futures and forwards is another one, because there's a couple to 2 to 3 questions on that. Plus some of the insurance products. Those are the touchy areas I think people struggle with the most on investment vehicles.
Speaking of that, Brian, here comes one. I just failed my second attempt. Could you please explain the concept behind book to price? It's actually price to book, but that's okay. And how to use it in a practical way. I certainly can. I was just reading Fundamental Analysis, a person who had a thesis on Citibank. He said that, Citibank in comparison to its peers, right? So in fundamental analysis, we're looking at an attractive valuation. We want to have a margin of safety. And he said the Bank of America and JP Morgan are trading at 1.2 times book in the market. 1.2. So these are companies whose market values are higher than their book values. Book value represents the theoretical liquidation value of the corporation. We don't assume we're going to liquidate the corporation. But if we sold off all the assets, we paid off all the liabilities, remember the shareholders have a residual claim. And then he said Citibank is trading at 60% price to book. Wow. It's trading for less. Its market value is less than its book value. Wow. And he was saying, if the CEO, if she's successful, and he said she doesn't have to be successful to get to 1.2, but if she can just get the market price to be 80% of book, that would be a decent return. And so that's why we're using price to book. We're using it as a valuation, as a margin of safety when comparing the investments. By the way, remember, we're comparing this investment, either the economy, then the industry, in this case, banking. Banks trade pretty close to book. And then the particular stock within that category. Now, that also means she should be aware. I don't know how many people have the resources to gobble up Citibank, but it also means that, if I were like Ken Griffin at Citadel, I could make a tender offer and maybe I try and take Citigroup public or private at 80% of book. So I would say the practical way we use price to book is a margin of safety in terms of valuation. Right? Usually it would be not can you crunch book value, but do you have this understanding of this price to book is the, a value proposition. Brian, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's another fundamental analysis tool to determine the value of the corporation. Exactly what Dean said. All of these ratios we see on the Series 66 is for analysis to find out the strength and or weaknesses of a company before we invest in it and put it in our customers' portfolios. And that's kind of the theory behind the Series 66 is that we're building portfolios, structured portfolios for clients, and we want to analyze these corporations, whether it be price to book, whether it be current ratios or quick ratios, or any of these ratios to determine the strength, the liquidity values, and debt to equity. How leveraged are these companies before we invest in them? That's what it's all about. It's all about fundamental analysis.
Yeah, I would just again say too, like valuations would be also, remember, using the dividend discount model, the PE multiple. These are all those valuations. Now, we don't care about that in a growth situation. Like, who gives a damn about NVIDIA's book value, right? Nobody, because they don't have any physical assets, so to speak, right? So, different industries get priced differently. So that would be the other thing I would add to that. I just remember seeing it as an answer option, and it was correct. Okay, well, there you go. So if you can cut and paste that, send it to me, please do. Dean@guruexamprep.com, and I'm more than happy to take a look at it and tell you my thoughts. Lady Brill, notice filing. So notice filing is, I think it shows up more often, Lady Brill, about mutual funds not having to register as a federally covered security than it shows up as Federal Investment Advisor. But remember, those are two buckets. These are called the National Securities Market Improvement Act, and that created two buckets: federally covered securities and federally covered investment advisors. I know they must file with the USA if the FIA, I even know.
Federal Advisor.
Oh, there you go. I never heard that acronym. It has an office within the state. Does the de minimis apply? Never. De minimis never applies to a federal situation. De minimis is only about state-covered investment advisors and state-covered investment advisor reps. There is no de minimis outside of that. Ryan, your thoughts on that?
Lady Brill, I think I know exactly what you're talking about in this. It's a pretty ambiguous question. Think about it. Here's how I think about it, Dean, and you help me. You correct us if we need it. We know that federal IAs only register with the SEC, but they still must pay their filing fees to all the state administrators.
Yeah.
I think of the notice filing essentially is a way to pay your filing fees. Telling the state administrators, hey, I'm a federal advisor, I'm exempt from state registration, here's your filing fee. That's what I think of notice filing. And I know there is a question on the 65 that goes into this. And it also goes into the fact, well, what if they only have 4 clients in the state? Do they still have to notice file? And I believe that's true. They do. They still have to notice file. They still have to pay their filing fees. Right?
Well, here's what I say. Here's the way I say. I'm not going to disagree. Right. The way I explain, and I've had people take exception to this explanation. I think of the notice filing as a courtesy that a federally covered investment advisor makes to a state administrator.
Okay.
You know, and I would be willing to say, Brian, yeah. And with that courtesy, here's a check. You know?
Exactly.
Still love you. You got to remember, Lady Brill, that state administrators hated the National Securities Market Improvement Act because it took power away from them. Right. And power is what it's all about. So the de minimis, I've never, Lady Brill, had anybody have a de minimis question where de minimis was part of determining federally covered advisors. The only time de minimis shows up as a testable issue is where state covered advisors, like I'm in Nevada and I don't register in California because I have no office and I have 5 or fewer. That's the only time that comes up.
Again, and I think you and I are both saying the same thing. They still have to pay their filing fees. They still have to give that notice to the state administrator, no matter how many clients.
Well, but Brian, here's where I guess I'm going to make sure we want to be clear. Notice filing is not a form of registration.
Right. No.
Notice filing is not a form of registration. So same thing with a mutual fund, right? A mutual fund is a federally covered securities. Brian's point, as the way I say it is a courtesy, they're going to tell the state, we're selling this tax-free fund mutual in your state, and here's our notice. That's not a way of registering. A mutual fund does not need to be registered. Right. So still active in the Facebook group. There you go. So Melissa says she's active over at Baby Brokers doing hat tricks, and she's willing to help out. Melissa, I know you're a busy lady, and I know you're going to find lots of money, and that's probably what you're going to be doing is finding money, moving money, and placing money. And, in Rancho Mirage, by the way, we usually don't get paid to find the money. We don't get paid to move the money, but we get paid to place and move. But if you have time and you want to help out over there, I'm more than happy to make you a moderator or administrator. And Melissa, I have to stay on top of it. I apologize if you are a part of that group because we do get spammed every now and again. And I do my best to keep those cretins out of our Facebook group, but it's sometimes tough. I'm getting better because I'm getting better, Melissa, at the buttons that Facebook provides where I can just automatically hit it. It gets rid of the stuff rather than doing it manually. And always great to have people, whether you join us every Tuesday as a Victorious Test Taker or stay active in the Facebook. So Melissa, thank you, because we do get a lot of people. Brian and I both get this a lot, where I get a thing on my channel where they say, Dean, and we appreciate this journey we've taken together, but I'm now unsubscribing. I say, I totally get it. I come into your life for a reason and a season. The reason that Brian and I come into your life is to help you pass your test, make your mark, and the season is how long that takes. So I always love it when the reason and the season is over, and Melissa, people like yourself continue to participate and contribute to other people in similar situations. Also bought Brian's course. All right. We got to get Brian paid for a second try, but I didn't finish it. I did 15% of it. That goes back to Q-Bank usage rate. Right. There you go. Would I recommend? How do you recommend going through it? Well, I'll let Brian, and we got the test geek himself here with us. Here's what I would say. Same thing I say about the book. I would make it a point to try and get through all Brian's videos in as close to one setting as possible. I know that's not possible for everybody. I get it. But I would want you to see all the stuff Brian has available, and then I would circle it back. So I'm suggesting 2 watches. One, just to, see Brian do his thing, not stress myself out about taking notes or anything. Just see the whole movie start to finish. Then I'd rewind and I would go back and start doing units and use that in conjunction with my Kaplan Q Bank or my other resources. Brian, what's the best way for him to knock out the other 85?
Well, there's many different ways, because there's many different ways that people study.
It's a buffet. Take what you like.
However, here's an easy way. It was meant to simulate exactly what I do in a live class. So that's how you should approach it. It's a live class, kind of, right? So split it up. The 65, 66 are 2-day classes, so split it up in half if you want. There's only about 6 to 7 hours per day of videos. But yes, I think you should watch it, as much of it as possible, in the shortest amount of time. Whether it be 1 day, whether it be 2 days, I'll leave that up to you. If you want to try to correlate it with textbook units, that gets a little dicey because all the textbooks are chopped up differently.
Yeah.
But it's meant to be a live class, or look and feel like a live class. So I hope that helps.
I like that. Series 7 Past Perfect. Well, I think, Jake, we should probably, start a support group for people who are using Past Perfect, because my goodness, they really get into the weeds quite a bit. They seem far too difficult. Well, on Series 7, this is one of my pet peeves. I'll link to an episode I ran, basically, a podcast episode on legacy questions. Jake, on FINRA exams, you will no longer see any multiple questions. But Past Perfect, Kaplan, STC, Knopfman, nobody wants to go through and cull their Q bank and get rid of those questions, because nobody wants to say they have a smaller Q bank. I'm guilty too, Jake. I have 2 practice exams I wrote that I'm very proud of. They're very long in the tooth, and they have multiples of multiples. Please note, I'm not doing what I'm telling they should do. It's still on my channel. It's the first 2 practice exams. They're still there, and they have multiples of multiples. Yeah. So you will get those on FINRA NASAA exams, 2 or 3 of them. But test prep vendors in general and all the FINRA exams go way overboard on multiples. Now, some people, Jake, do like them because you can apply some test taking tricks to them. So I find some people love them, some people hate them. Your question, though, there will not be multiples on that. Usually, a multiple would only be used in a situation in which there's 2 or 4, 1 and 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Because guys who write tests, if it's 3, they would write which of all the following are true except. They would use the except format. Or if it's one of them, which of the following is true. So my default on multiples is I go for D. That's my default. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then what I do is then go through the multiples and reach each of them and try and put true or false next to it, or yes or no, or ethical, unethical, and eliminate the multiple if I can, and then shop my answer set again, seeing what's left for me. Usually I can get a 50-50 doing it that way, but I think it's more of a past perfect issue in general, not only just on multiples, their questions. Jake, I had somebody pay me to tutor her on past perfect margin questions because her firm would not let her move on to unit 20 until she got a 90 on past perfects, each unit, including margin. She gave me permission to put it as a replay. I call it margin questions from hell. And I feel bad because it's a waste of her and my time. I get why she had to do that, and she was doing it that way, but those are questions she's never going to encounter on the Series 7. So, past perfect, I get it. They're trying to stretch people's minds and hope it doesn't go back to the same spot. I'm not sure how productive that is in certain situations. For some people, that's a productive thing to do to them. Other people, not so productive. So I don't think you're a fan of past perfect either. Ryan, are you there?
No. You know me.
Yeah.
Broad avenues and the highways.
All right. You like the videos. I'm glad you like them. I spent a lot of time on them. 3 to 4 hours. There you go. Like it. Like it. No, I don't. Yeah, I feel bad that you're getting a 26. I mean, everybody I know gets a 26 has to circle back and get a 7 and 24 at some point. I do not have any 26 content, unfortunately. I do not. Do Brian, do you have any 26 content? Just finished Series 7, Press Perfect Chapter 6, Mutual Funds. Pretty complicated, not well explained. Well, I have a video, Jake. I'll put in the video description. All the math necessary to pass 7. Please note the title. All the math necessary. I had somebody send me a list of all the things that aren't in that video. And I said, well, please check the title. I didn't say all the math. I said all the math necessary.
Right.
For example, past perfect makes people calculate yield to maturity using the rule of thumb method, not on the test. So, I'll link to that, Jake. You can watch that. You can use that to confirm past perfect math. In general, past perfect goes way overkill. SIE tomorrow. Well, Lone Star Galaxy, get some rest. High 80s, look good. But yeah, I have people at Lone Star Galaxy to use my SIE playlist as their primary study tool with great success. So I don't recommend it, but if you go through some of those videos, you'll find lots of people who have used my videos as a primary. Finish the book. There you go. Love it, Aaron. 3 weeks. I will link. Brian and I have ideas about study plans. They're available in video form on Brian's channel. He has a video. I have a video. I'll link to you for you, and you can check that out. But you're on the right track. Reading the book is number 1 on that list.
That's right.
2.5 weeks, really stressed. Should I start doing a bunch of quizzes? No. You need to get a practice test done somewhere. We need to know what a cumulative score looks like. You need to do an intellectual inventory. I don't like questions where it sounds like you're trying to get comfortable. You're never going to be completely comfortable. So I don't know, Brian, what do you give Bakes? Another week to do practice tests? Or
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you got to start moving from quizzes to practice tests. So that would be, if I were your accountability partner, your helper, I'm on Team Bakes, I'd say, when am I going to get a practice test score from you? And that by the way, that'll take care of that stress. Part of the stress is not knowing where you're at currently. And
you need to get that score. Where are we? Right?
Yep.
And where are the weak areas? We got to get to
right.
it. Yep.
Right on. So math video after I read the complete book. There you go. 3rd try SIE. Wow. Product risk. Yeah. Product risk is big time, Evan. So I have a video, 33 questions on product risk. Watch it. And then you can get separate videos on each of those. That would be my recommendation. I'll link to that video in the description. We're coming up to the end. That's why I'm moving kind of fast. Totally forgot to come by earlier. Got through the 63. All right. Completed the licensing journey. You have completed your test-taking registration hat trick. Woo! All right, Dan Pico, thank you so much for joining us. It looks like from LinkedIn. We broadcast to YouTube. Oh, maybe it's YouTube. I just like your profile there. It looks very professional. CFP in the house. We broadcast to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So sunny Florida. All right. Hope it's not too hot and sticky down there. What is the minimum hour to study per day? Well, I don't do it that way, Glenn. I think study blocks. I say, how many study blocks can you give me? And so a study block is anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. I would ideally, if you're a part-time studier, you would be either give me either a study block of 90 minutes or 2 for 45 with a 30-minute break in between. So if you're going to do 3 hours, I would suggest 2 90-minute study blocks. I prefer the morning. So 1 in the morning when you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm assuming you're a part-time studier, maybe 1 in the evening. I would do my high-level concentration stuff in the morning. Usually people are better in the mornings with that than they are in the evening. I know there's exceptions, but that's pretty much. And then weekends, are you going to give me 3 or 4? So I would call that study blocks, not hours. And I think enough to do a rhythm. So at least 90 minutes a day. What do you think, Brian? Everybody's different.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it depends upon his personal situation as well.
Yeah.
There's no set minimum or maximum for any.
No right answer. Indeed. No right answer. That's absolutely correct. My birth country. I have aspirations to work one day in the U.S. Do I need to take it again? No, you don't need to take it again. We're having a great week. Thank you, Isaac. What needs to be known about adoption or entanglement? Prudential regulation, McLean. Every firm has to have written supervisory procedures about social media, what they will allow, what they don't allow. Reps got a sign saying they've read it and understood it. Entanglement means that if you're involved in the creation of that content or distributing that content, you will be held accountable for that content. Anything you want to add to that, Brian?
I think.
Do you have on that countered like coupon? Well, Gustavo, we don't. I have teeter-totter seesaw stuff, but I don't have a particular video that has synonyms of different terms. I do think that's a big challenge for sure. I think we went over this one time before, did we not? Incentive stock options differ from non-qualified. Some of them are considered to be after tax. Some of them are considered to be part of your compensation. And so when you exercise them, the tax consequences would be different based on that. You want to add anything to that, Brian?
That's exactly it. It's a tax question, right?
Not Brian's fault. He called out people's weak spot, just the actual test win. Oh, I didn't think he was being mean-spirited at all. So I think I'm just as guilty as Brian if we're saying Brian was tough on somebody. I think we were both tough. I think it's tough love. We're not, listen, we get it. But we're just simply saying that you're going into the cave to slay the dragon. And you don't want to go in the cave unprepared because you'll get smoked. And so we're saying to even know what the dragon looks like, you got to have, a 60% area to start, getting a good look. It looks like we're running a little over here. I apologize. Oh, hey, well, thank you. We got a super chat, Brian. If we miss you, just know you can sign up for the live stream overtime next week. And we'll be back next week. And I think it's time for our formulas series 7. Woo! Yeah, I do think, Corey, I think recognizing that is important. I'm just cherry picking at this point. Just seeing if there's anything else here. Oh my goodness, Brian. Maybe we're going to have to extend. I apologize. We just got way more people than we're going to ever possibly get to. All right. So that means we're going to close up. I'll see some of you in 15 minutes with our drawing. Now, remember, the drawing is not for personalized tutoring. The drawing is for access to my free office hour every day Wednesday. You can just go simply register. You need within an hour, tell me you won that drawing. And it's also a class of your choice that I offer on Wednesday night. Let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of this. Where's our comments? Way up. Let me get rid of that. Brian, you like to pick the things. You want to put Canada? Aren't you going to Canada?
Yeah, I like it. That's a good one. Let's just go with that.
Brian is taking a little trip. He's not going to be joining us next week because he'll be in Canada. And so if you want to participate in the drawing, just put Canada. You got to do it exactly how Brian has it. Brian, I'm sorry, I didn't put all caps. So let me just show you what you need to do.
Sorry. That's the teacher. I always do that.
Shared screen. There we go. Okay, so there we go. And you need to send me an email telling me, let me put that in there, banners. And there we go. And if you want to participate, now's the time to do so. And remember what you win. I can't stress this enough. You do not win a $225 hour tutoring session with me. No. What you win is access to the office hour I provide every other Wednesday to paid students. And you will get access to that, and you'll get a class of your choice. Okay, we got anybody else that wants to participate? Michelle, there we go. So Michelle, send me an email. You don't, just to claim your victory. Sometimes people have 6 months later, I won, but I never participated. Can I collect now? The answer is no. But you don't need me, Michelle, to actually register for the office hour. You simply go to Dean Tenney, or Dean Tenney Tutoring. Let me put that up there. Setmore.com, and you can register for the office hour. I think you can register for tomorrow. I think there's still a spot. Or you can register for the other one, and then you'll need my help to actually pick out a class. If you go to the class schedule, you'll see the class. You can pick one that I need to send you the link because there's a paywall in front of that. All right. And then, like I say, claim your winning, please. All right. Let's go back to Brian and I. Thank you for joining us. We really enjoy coming to you every Tuesday, helping you with any content questions you have. Remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. And Brian, you say?
Keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right, everybody. I'll see some of you in 15 minutes in our live stream overtime session. You can register for that next time as well at deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. That's free and that's for everybody. So if you want to join us next Tuesday for an overtime, feel free to do so. Brian, we'll see you Tuesday after next.
2 weeks.
Be safe. Be safe.
Absolutely.
Don't mess around with any of those Canadian grizzlies up there.
No.
All right, everybody. Bye-bye.